had loads of energy. I was reading about all these kind of ailments, but I didn't have any kind of indigestion or swollen ankles or anything like that. And I really do attribute that to all these amazing plants that I was having. They are so nourishing and kind on the system. And I was also... I also, every time that I was kind of second guessing myself, am I getting enough iron? Am I getting enough calcium? I would kind of refer to Melissa Pedersen's, Clint's wife, Melissa Pedersen, her Glowing and Showing book on a plant-based pregnancy, where she has different kind of chapters and things talking about all these different parts which people might be worried about. Am I missing out? Is my baby going to miss out on certain things? And she's so positive about the upsides of this lifestyle. She talks really matter-of-factly about, the problems that you might have, nausea, how do you deal with that, and so on. And I also did something called hypnobirthing for the birth, which just means that you're basically working together with your body, and you're breathing through all these contractions and things, the surges. Because for me, this resonated so well with understanding why the body gives you certain signals, which is what I have learned through the Pedersen program. And as a result, I was able to have an amazing, kind of enjoyable natural birth of this little chap as well. And that was on the 1st of August last year. So I cannot believe he's actually coming up to a year now. Now, because I was on no drugs, I have also been able to breastfeed him throughout, which I know that is not something everybody is able to do. So I've been really, really grateful for that. And you've seen him. He is now having some solid foods, and he's still plant-based. He loves drinking my green smoothies mainly. I have to kind of take the straw away from him because he just would finish it pretty much if I let him. And his little feet start running on the spot as soon as he sees a plate of food every single time. He loves things like asparagus and sweet potato, just like me, I guess. They do say that whatever the mom eats through the pregnancy will probably resonate with the baby. We went to Sweden, where I grew up, a couple of weeks ago, and his eyes were just kind of scanning the sides of the road as we were walking through the forest, because somehow Mom and Grandma made raspberries magically appear out of thin air. So yeah, he was very much enjoying that. Now, you've seen some of those papers that I put on the tables. I forgot to put my contact details on. If you look up A Kitchen Fairy Tale on Facebook, or mainly on Instagram, if you are interested in any kind of inspiration when it comes to food, that's where you will see me posting pretty much every day. But the thing is that I never thought that the worst thing that ever happened to me could somehow become one of the best things that ever happened to me. I have always loved cooking ever since I was 9 years old, and I made spaghetti with a tomato sauce for my family every night, 3 weeks in a row. When I then realized that I would be having to go plant-based, which I knew absolutely nothing about, I decided that I never wanted to feel like I was missing out on delicious foods. So I set out to kind of test and develop all these lovely recipes that were humble enough to keep the inflammation down, but would still taste delicious. And my family and friends, when they tried the foods, they really enjoyed them, and they saw how well I was doing. So they started asking me for recipe ideas, and basically my plant-based no-oil cookbook will be published on the 18th of October 2018. I also put the wrong date on there. And it contains everything from the most humble recipes for anyone who has kind of gotten a little bit further onto the Pedersen program, but it also contains recipes for anyone who's just looking to try plant-based cooking. It's called A Kitchen Fairy Tale, and so she lived happily ever after, kind of thing. And now, in my book, I have also also included my story, because when I started feeling better on the Paddison program, I promised myself that I would do whatever I can to make sure that when people walk into that rheumatologist office one day in the future, they will actually be given two options. And one is to take the prescribed medication and be on their merry way. And the other one is to give the Paddison program a go. It could even be alongside the medication. And then to see if they can heal their body naturally. Because for me, having the knowledge what is happening in your body is so empowering, and I really just want to kind of spread the word, make sure that people will know that this is actually an option, and it's working for so many. So that was my story, and I also wanted to share a couple of kind of thoughts around being plant-based and a few kind of kitchen hacks with you guys. There's basically just a lot of food on there at the moment because there's so much you can cook. But I know that it can feel really overwhelming to make such a radical change, because not only are you removing animals from your plate alongside their milk, but you're also learning to cook without oils. I'm not going to go into the kind of why oils should not be labeled a health food, because there are plenty of YouTube videos on that you can find if you can Google Dr. Clapper olive oil, for example, or Dr. McDougall, same thing there, and they have some really, really good kind of scientific information behind it as well. But obviously, putting this into practice, you're standing in your kitchen and let's say you're gonna oven roast something. I would say that there are a few things you need. And well, the most important thing is to just fill your kitchen with all these fresh fruits and berries and vegetables, so that you always have something. You know, it's easy not to succeed if you don't have the food around, pretty much, and then you just grab something that won't make you feel awesome. So just fill your kitchen with all these foods. And I've never been a person who can just live on a salad for lunch. I need something super substantial. So you get your brown rice going, and sweet potatoes, white potatoes. You have all kinds of brown rice pasta, all these foods that just give you so much energy. And then you make sure you have beans and lentils. You can have nuts around the house, all of this. And there's so much that you can make with that. So let's say that you're putting something in the oven and you're thinking, okay, well, this is, what am I doing? There is no olive oil around here. So what you do is you just put your non-stick baking paper, that's something you always want to have at home, non-stick baking paper, into an oven-proof dish, put your chopped veggies on there, get a sprinkling of water going, because cooking with water it's just the best. You add a bit of your seasoning, make sure everything is coated, then you keep an eye on it. You might need to cook it on a slightly lower heat. Keep an eye on it. If it looks a little bit dry, you can move it around with a spatula, add a bit more water if necessary. I do this all the time with oven roasted potatoes, for example, and people are absolutely loving them, so you're not missing out there. And then, for example, if you are making a stir fry, you always want to make sure that you have a good non-stick ceramic wok or pan in your house, frying pan. And all you do is you just heat up the pan, you add a bit of water, and then you get your flavors going. So get your minced garlic in there, chopped chilies or chopped ginger, put all the veggies in there, coat everything with the water, add more water. If it's starting to look dry, add more water. You can get some tamari sauce, which is a gluten-free soy sauce. Make sure that you get that onto everything, maybe a squeeze of lime or lemon, and then you just cook that for a couple of minutes to retain the crunch, retain the nutrients, and serve it with rice. I mean, I don't know anyone who hasn't kind of loved that around our house. And and finally, I know that salad dressings are obviously something that you're so used to using oil with. But there is something called apple cider vinegar, for example, which is always a winner. It comes with amazing health benefits, but it also tastes amazing. So you can, for example, squeeze in half an orange to get some orange juice going in there. If you add maybe some pressed garlic, you can have that immediately, or if you put it in the fridge, it'll infuse beautifully overnight over the next 2-3 days, for example, and you just have that, and it's absolutely delicious. Get some herbs in as well. So I think those are probably the most important things, and you also want to think about the things that you can have rather than thinking about the things that you can't have. because there is just so much amazing food out there, and it's really, really easy to cook. So that's, I mean, there was no no oil plant-based cookbook around, which is why I basically decided to write this one. So and I also wanted to share a couple of plant-based fails with you guys, because I've been on this diet for almost 3 years, and there is, you get into a restaurant, and I find that you basically get two camps when it comes to restaurants. You get the guys that are going to go, okay, awesome, this is a challenge, let's see something great that I can whip up for you. And you get the guys who go, ooh, yeah, maybe you can have some green salad leaves. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work, yeah. So what I have found is that there have been just a very few times, I think a couple of times only, that I've actually had to just leave the restaurant and go somewhere else, and it's always been a really good solution. Then there's always the surprise of, for example, going to this some kind of seafood restaurant. Went to a friend's wedding in San Francisco, and we were going to a seafood restaurant, and I'm just thinking this is going to be a complete disaster. So we emailed them a few days ahead and just said, oh, it's a vegan, no oil medical diet, which tends to actually alert people if you say that you're on a medical diet. And we arrived, and they had made this most amazing, I think it was a rice salad, a big salad, and then they had actually grilled some avocado, which is completely unthought of in my world, and it was the most delicious thing. The chef actually came out and asked me afterwards, did you enjoy that? I really loved the challenge. I just thought, okay, great. Well, thank you very much. No, it was absolutely epic. And then I've been to restaurants where we actually went to another friend's. There were a lot of weddings a couple of years ago, and we flew down to Mauritius actually, and all my friends who went to this Chinese restaurant, and sat down, and I realized there wasn't really anything on the menu that I could have, so I just asked for some steamed rice and steamed vegetables, and I remember that it was so delicious. I think I brought my own tamari sauce. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, right? So I brought my own tamari sauce, and I really enjoyed the meal. And afterwards, the owner completely blank refused to take payment because she felt so sorry for me to having to eat such a simple meal. Like, okay, I'll come back. Amazing. But I think that I am just so grateful to Clint for putting his experience into this kind of a manual, making it possible for so many other people to give it a go and just try to heal the body naturally. And even looking back now, I actually wouldnn't have changed a thing. It's been a really amazing journey. So thanks, guys, for listening.